Here it comes, here it comes. What? Oh! He ate that up! I'm eating your stuff!
For those of you who don't know, this episode actually leaked online early. A company in India affiliated with HBO, distributor, an employee there leaked the episode. They're kind of like investigating what happened. This is not the first time though that episodes have leaked early, and I think it's just episode 4. I don't think there's any, episode 5, 6, or 7 out there. At least not that I know of. But I remember back in season 5, I believe, the first 4 episodes leaked online early. That was a big mess. Normally with leaks like this, what ends up happening is that somebody hacks into the servers to get the episodes. But an article that I read said that no, it was an inside job.
This episode was actually pretty Stark heavy, starting with a scene between Bran and Littlefinger, in which Littlefinger gives Bran the Valyrian steel dagger that was used to try and assassinate him. If you remember back in season 1, an assassin came into Bran's room to try and kill him with that dagger. Turns out eventually it was revealed that the person who hired the assassin was Joffrey, and that blade essentially caused the entire war to start because Catelyn, after the assassination attempt failed, she's like, okay, we got to take Tyrion prisoner, and then Tywin and the Lannisters were like, we need to take back our son Tyrion. So that's literally the catalyst item. Anyway, Littlefinger kind of makes it seem as if he's there with really good intentions. He's there to protect the Starks, trying to fulfill Catelyn's will, but then Bran kind of calls him out. He's like, chaos is a ladder. And because now Bran has this access to all these backstories and flashbacks, some fans have speculated over the possibility of Bran going to Sansa and telling her, you know, this Littlefinger guy actually was the one who betrayed our dad, Ned Stark. And so all he needs to do is tell Sansa about it, and I'm pretty sure that Sansa, as well as the other Northerners, wouldn't have a problem with executing Littlefinger on the spot. However, I think this episode makes it clear that Bran is just so emotionally detached from the Stark family, from everything. I mean, look at his goodbye with Mira. He's like, "Thank you, I don't need you anymore." And she even says, like, "Oh, like you really did die in that cave then." I'm pretty sure that his experience with Hodor kind of taught him to be way more cautious about messing up the timeline and sort of pushing things to go a certain way because it could really mess things up. However, I will say that I think one of the things that he does do is that he gives the dagger to Arya, Valyrian steel, and I'm pretty sure he does that because he's seen the future in which Arya is just going to be owning some White Walkers with that blade. So I definitely think that right now Bran is just going to stick to giving people nudges in the right direction instead of actually trying to manipulate and just sort of influence the timeline to go a certain way because, you know, as we learned from Spider-Man, with great power / knowledge comes great responsibility. Then Arya goes back to Winterfell, and the guards at the gate don't believe her. I think at one point she's accused of being an impersonator or something like that, but that's actually a direct reference to the books, because in the books there was in fact a fake Arya Stark. While Arya was in Bravos, somebody assumed her name and pretended to be her. Her name was Jane Poole, and she's the one who actually ends up marrying Ramsay in the books. Again, pretending to be Arya. We get a pretty cool sparring match between Arya and Brienne. I actually had to rewatch the sequence a couple of times just to see, like, how they matched up against each other. Again, this is like just training, so like neither of them is taking that very seriously. But based off of the outcome, you could say that they're evenly matched. But after I rewatched the sequence, there are a couple of things that stand out. First of all, Arya is way better at dodging than Brienne is, because she's quicker and she's smaller, so she's really good at that. Also because she had training when she was blind, and she kind of like had to train her senses. And Brienne is a lot better at overpowering her opponents. Okay, so Arya gets 2 points pretty early on because she actually pins Brienne on the neck, and then almost immediately after that happens, Arya goes for Brienne's hand and arm and her leg, and she actually breaks her stance. So she leaves Brienne wide open for damage. So that's a second point for Arya. However, after that, Brienne, I think, begins taking the matchup a little bit more seriously and goes to overpower Arya with a kick, sends her to the ground. Arya gets up, but I personally would have wanted her to get up a little bit quicker. So that's one point for Brienne for sending her to the ground. And then also Brienne manages to completely disarm Arya because she actually sends Needle flying. So 2 points for Brienne, 2 points for Arya, and then they end up like this. So you be the judge. I also really liked the sister reunion scene that we got in the crypts. I will say, though, that because of the location, it was kind of hard to see their facial expressions. It was a little bit dark, so I definitely would have appreciated more lighting. That being said, the creators actually made a really good point about the fact that, despite the fact that both of these girls went through hell and back, right? They went through very difficult situations. They kind of ended up becoming the thing that they wanted to become anyway. Arya is a fighter, and Sansa is now a really true lady of Winterfell. So they followed different paths, but they ended up achieving their goals if you look at it that way. That conversation that they have, I may be wrong, but I definitely think, I'm pretty sure it's actually the longest conversation these girls, these sisters, have had with each other since the start of the series.
I actually ended up liking the Jon and Daenerys scene in this episode more than what we got in the previous episode. And I like those scenes, but what I really took away from the cave scene, the reason I liked it so much, is that Jon is kind of guiding her through the cave, but he doesn't do a lot of talking. He actually lets Daenerys come up with her own conclusions and rationalizations about what she's looking at on the walls, these carvings. So she's the one that has a monologue about, oh, well, before there were houses like Baratheons and Lannisters and Starks, this is what essentially was in Westeros. It's the children of the forest with the first men. And she's like, what were they doing? Were they fighting? And Jon says, like, well, they weren't fighting each other. They came together for a common cause to fight the White Walkers. Which is interesting because, as we found out in the previous season, the children of the forest actually created the White Walkers in the first place. I also felt like there was a romantic undertone to that scene as well. Not only because of Jon's history in the caves, what happened with Ygritte, but also because of the lighting. Just in general, I think a torch-lit cave, there's something mystic and romantic about it. Also, the fact that he kind of lets her connect the dots by herself, I see it as a sign of respect. And that sense of respect is highlighted by the end of the scene when Daenerys just tells him, like, straight up, like, I need your help. What would you do in this situation? And Jon says, like, I would never presume to tell you anything. So I like that. I like the gradual development that they're having.
There's also a very brief comment from Davos kind of telling Jon, I kind of caught you checking her out. And he's like, there's no time for that. We're at war. But that also kind of implies that if there was time, then maybe he'd be interested, despite the fact that they're related, even though neither of them knows this.
Turns out Jon's advice to Daenerys was actually pretty good. He tells her, people follow you because they think you're special. You made the impossible possible in their eyes. But if you behave like everybody else and just torch King's Landing, then people are going to begin to question whether you really are special because you'd be doing what everybody else would do. Also, Tyrion got called out in this episode, which I think is definitely something that needed to happen. Daenerys doesn't take BS from anyone. And unfortunately, Tyrion's decisions, ever since we got to Westeros, haven't been yielding the expected results. He opens up, like, his first line is literally, well, we took Casterly Rock, but did we really? I mean, Euron's fleet was literally ready to keep attacking the Unsullied until they retook it. That's what I understood, and that's supposed to be the good news, okay? So obviously she's furious, and I think they're setting up this sort of internal conflict for Tyrion, in that he's going to have to decide where his loyalties really lie. Which I'm assuming they're with Daenerys, right? But by the end of this episode, he still obviously cares for Jaime. I don't think he cares about Cersei. But it's kind of like, she calls him out. It's like, my enemies are your family. So I'm kind of questioning what's going on. So, I think it could be a pretty good character arc for him. Because once he meets that crossroads, he's going to have to make a choice. I think that's something that the show does remarkably well, is that it literally lets you know that there are people that you like on both sides. So it kind of makes you feel for Tyrion in that aspect, but at the same time, like, me personally, I just wanted Drogon to wreck those lines, man. And I'm glad he did, at least as much as he did, because despite the fact that I think Bran and Jaime are pretty good characters, I don't respect their employer. I really don't like Cersei. So to me, like, the decision of which side I want to end up being successful is a no-brainer. But maybe that's not the case for a lot of people that prefer Bran and Jaime over Daenerys. Oh look, it's that scene from The Hobbit, except this time Smaug actually survives the arrow. No, but seriously, the attack looked beastly. The cinematography for this was great, considering the fact that it's a TV show. It looks like a movie. I've said this in previous seasons as well. The choreography of both the Dothraki and Lannister armies alike was pretty well executed. The fire-breathing scenes with Drogon looked amazing, okay? I love the quality of that fire. I will say though that I think Bronn surviving does kind of require a little bit of suspension of disbelief, in my opinion. But it was just so great. Like everything looked great. And then by the end, Jaime, I don't know what he was thinking, just going up to like Daenerys, be like, "Yo, I got a spear." Of course he's gonna blow fire at you. I don't know what he was thinking, and I'm thinking it was Bronn who pushed him out of the way, and then he's just kind of drowning there with his metal hand. I definitely don't think he's dead, by the way, but that's what you're led to believe. And then it's a pretty epic ending when the credits have no music. Next time, Jaime should just pay attention to Bronn. I mean, literally, Bronn was the one who noticed that the attack was about to come in, and then he tells Jaime, "Yo, you better split. You better dip. Go back to King's Landing." He's like, "No, we can hold him off." Look at Jaime's face when he realizes it was at that moment he knew. It's a stampede! Run for your lives! No, but seriously, Bronn is the MVP, alright? He has a lot of combat experience.
I'm assuming Daenerys is wearing some type of armor beneath her clothing. Yes? No? She should definitely at least get a helmet or something for these types of fights. Because one of the things this episode made absolutely clear is that Daenerys' dragons aren't invincible. That being said, there is a very minor, very small scene that serves to illustrate the amount of overkill that dragons represent. So basically Drogon is coming in with the fire. Jaime he tells the soldiers, take cover, and in the next moment, the soldiers that are still holding on to the same formation are made out of ash.
That's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you did. I appreciate that. Subscribe to my channel for more Game of Thrones Season 7 reviews every Sunday night after the episode airs. Comment down below. What did you think about the different storylines that we got to see today, and where do you think they're headed? Thank you for watching. Bye.